was able to do just that. This new troll infection AU was created by Violent Berry artists on TikTok, and this story was surprisingly good, and the artwork was fantastic. Now, this AU doesn't waste any time, and it starts with Poppy laying in bed, looking at a wound that she has on her arm, and based on the little veins we see here, it looks like the wound is festering and spreading up her arm into her hand. But before her panic can set in, we hear someone greeting her, and it turns out to be Branch. And even though Poppy is claiming to be okay, he still showed up with a bunch of different herbs and medicine to help her recover from her injuries faster, which is really no surprise considering that these two are boyfriend and girlfriend. But as Branch is sorting out the medication, we see Poppy's face has completely changed and looks almost doll-like or mannequin-like in a way. And as Branch turns around to check on her, he realizes that she is no longer in the bed, only leaving behind a bloodstain. And then the bracelet that he's wearing on his wrist dings, alerting him to Poppy, who now has this large, creepy smile, is bleeding from her mouth, has claws, and is saying that it's hug time. And fun fact, this is obviously a reference to the show and more recently the movie, but it's also a reference to the hug time bracelets, which are real items that are still sold in stores, although they are way more popular back in the day. Now, in part 2 of the animation, we see Branch throws a blanket onto Poppy in order to give himself time to get away. But it seems like he knows that in this new form, Poppy is faster than he is. So he ends up using his hair to latch onto a tree branch and get out of her reach. And in doing so, he learns that she is unable to use her hair in this new form. This basically allows him to swing tree to tree, while Poppy is forced to run on all fours below him, as if she's turned into some kind of feral beast. And while it seems to be going well for Branch for a while, eventually he swings into a branch and falls out of a tree. The good news is that he manages to make it to his bunker and is able to climb down before Poppy can get her hands on it. And while Poppy is inspecting the hatch like a curious toddler, Branch throws open the door and fires a net gun at her. And since it was basically a point-blank shot, Poppy is not able to dodge the net, and before she can actually break free, Branch loads his dart shooter and sends a trank right into Poppy's neck. And while it seems to be enough to put Poppy to sleep, you can tell that Branch is still really shaken up from the encounter and also confused as to what has happened to his girlfriend. Also notice that Poppy is crying here, almost as if her body has gone through like terrible pain when she transformed, or maybe she's not in control of her body and all she can do is cry at this point. In the next chapter, we get to see that Branch has become a real forest troll and seems to be hunting other infected. We see that he has a bunch of equipment in his hair, including a net gun, which we have seen in action already. He also has a sharp stick, which may imply that he may be taking out some of the trolls that he can't put to sleep. He also has a grappling hook, a jar of sweets, and 2 gems, one being his and the other being Poppy's, of course. And we see here in his hand, he's carrying this straw, which is basically his blowgun, and that's how he's actually putting these trolls to sleep. Because it seems like when Poppy got infected, a few other trolls ended up getting infected as well, although we don't know them by name quite yet. We also learn that while hunting all these trolls down, he has gotten into great physical shape because he's constantly moving and setting traps. But now that Poppy is sick, he's also lost his color, so he's definitely like in a state of depression. The good news is that he was able to lock her away for now, and he seems to be doing a lot of research trying to figure out a way to cure her of this infection. We even see Cloud Guy has stepped up to help as well, alongside a few others, starting with the hunting team, which consists of John, Branch, of course, and then Viva, and they seem to be in charge of actually catching these infected trolls. Then we have the research team, which consists of Laguna, Clay, and Floyd. And can we take a moment to appreciate how the Techno Trolls finally get to help out in the AU? I feel like usually they're either the first people to be infected, or they just don't play any role in the AU at all. After that, we get to see the health aides, which include Janet, Dr. Bloom Bloom, who we don't get to see often as well, and then of course we have Cloud Guy. And something worth pointing out is that the Cloud people seem to be immune to whatever is infecting the trolls, which is good news because it seems like most of the people right now have to go into lockdown. So having a group of people that can actually move around freely is going to be a huge help for the trolls. But as of right now, the only lead that they have is a story that Poppy has told Branch before her infection got too severe. She said that she was out collecting gems in a cave by the river, but then she was bitten by some kind of creature hiding in the shadows. She immediately started to feel dizzy, so she made her way out of the cave and back to her home. And it turns out that the thing that bit her was called a twick, which is basically a rare type of spider that has a powerful venom in its bite. And when they bite trolls, they cause them to behave like twicks, which explains why we saw Poppy kind of get aggressive in the beginning of the AU and why she was running on all fours. The good news is that the infected trolls don't become cannibals. They are still more than happy to eat a bunch of sweets, and after the initial transformation, they lose some of that aggression and behave more like children who don't know that they're giants, basically. We even see in this image here that Poppy is more than willing to allow the cloud people to bathe her body, and she even seems to kind of remember Branch here as she's looking at this picture of the two of them. We also see a few other trolls who have been infected. This one right here looks like Guy Diamond, and this one down here looks like Biggie. But I think the most important part of this scene is that one troll had to be stabbed. And it says that some of the infected trolls are more scared than hostile, but when they can't be put to sleep or calm down, they are forced to stab them, which is kind of sad because all of the infected are either friends or family.
Lowe's knows running a home or business can add up fast. With a free MyLowe's Rewards membership, your earnings add up fast too. Earn points with MyLowe's Money, get member-only deals, free shipping. Join for free for more with Lowe's.
Athena Health makes practicing care simpler, like reducing document processing time by 91% simpler. That's more patient time and less screen time. When it comes to healthcare tech, simpler is healthier. Family. In the next chapter, we get to see what the researchers have found thus far, and based on their findings, the infection can only affect creatures that are really small. Because as you can see on this graph here, the twig is so small that even compared to the trolls, they're like up to their ankle. And just to put that into perspective, the trolls are anywhere between like 4 to 6 inches. But creatures like the vacationers, the Bergens, and even the Ragans are completely unaffected by the venom because they're just simply too large. Next, we get a breakdown of all the stages, with stage 1 just giving the troll a headache and a stinging pain coming from their infection point. At stage 2, the infection point starts to fester. The troll gets a wide, involuntary smile on their face, very similar to the joy virus in the Amazing World of Gumball AU. Stage 3 is where the trolls actually go through a rapid growth spurt, where they double in size over the course of 5 to 10 seconds. And this process is very painful, which is why we see the trolls crying here. Their bodies are basically just being forced to stretch and elongate past their regular limits. And then at stage 4, the trolls' eyes are fully dilated, and this is when they are most likely to be aggressive towards other trolls. And then lastly, we have stage 5, which is where their hair goes flat and they begin to calm down a little bit, but are still not safe to be close to because any contact will spread the infection. In the next chapter, we see Branch sitting on a branch, looking pretty down. But then Cloud Guy shows up with some good news, almost causing Branch to fall to the ground in the process. Luckily, he's able to catch himself with his tail, and he asks what Cloud Guy wants. And it turns out that the researchers have found a potential cure for the infected trolls. And you can tell by Branch's face here that he is in shock, almost as if he was losing hope in getting Poppy back to normal. We then see that Laguna has come up with a theory that she believes should get rid of the infection. And even though it's not a guarantee, Branch is thankful that they even have a chance to save their friends and loved ones. Can we take a moment to get a Laguna is the GOAT down in the comments, because she's really coming through in this AU thus far. Next, we get to see Laguna's plan, and the first step is to get willing cloud people to help since they're immune to the venom. Laguna is going to have the cloud person go into the infected troll's body and absorb the venom just like a real cloud does with like water vapors. After that, they'll leave the troll's body and place all the venom into a container that Branch will make sure to lock up in his bunker so that no one else will get infected. Now, in order to actually test this, the trolls needed someone to act as a test subject, and DJ Suki was willing to step up to save her people. So Laguna made her an infected cupcake, which would basically allow her to get the virus without having to get bit by the twig. And judging by this image here, the cupcake worked just as well as the spider bite. And with DJ now fully transformed, they got ready to conduct the first experiment to find out if this plan would work. And luckily, it looked like it was all successful, even though DJ still looks terrible here. We see that even though she is recovering, her limbs are still sore from being stretched so long, her energy is extremely low, and she has a throbbing headache that just doesn't seem to want to go away. But based on Laguna's notes, it looks like DJ is going to make a full recovery. It just takes a few months of rest. We even get to see this picture of her being able to stand again and giving a thumbs up, and this causes Branch to run over to the cage where Poppy is being held, and he tells her that they finally found a way to cure her. But at this point, I don't even know if Poppy understands what he's saying. She looks like absolute nightmare fuel here. Now, after seeing that a cure had been found, good news, it seems that Dr. Float is worried about performing the operation on Poppy and some of the other trolls that were infected early on, like Biggie and Guy Diamond. He thinks that since the infection may have been inside them so long, that it's basically become a part of them, which means that they won't be able to absorb the venom now. And after running a blood test, it turns out that he was kind of correct. It looks like 50% of Poppy's blood will need to be removed in order to get all the corrupted blood cells and the lingering infection out of her body. And not only will this operation take double the normal time, but there is also a good chance that she will pass away during the operation. But since they really have no other option, they just decide to move forward with the procedure, with Dr. Float offering to remove the infection from Poppy himself. They also asked Branch to be in the room for mental health support, just in case she does wake up and she's afraid or like she's confused. And then we get to see this awesome artwork here where we see Dr. Float entering Poppy's body through the reflection in Branch's eye. And we know that he's staring up here because if this operation fails, that means that he will lose the love of his life and likely go back to being a loner full of sadness and paranoia, kind of like he was in the first movie. The next chapter is actually a semi-animation that shows what happened in and after the operation. While we see that Float was able to get out the venom and bad blood, even managing to wake Poppy up for a moment, she almost immediately passes out, not even being able to respond to Branch's pleas. But judging by the beats of the machine that she's attached to, she's likely still alive, but in a coma, making it to where all Branch can do is wait and hope that she wakes back up. After the operation, we see Branch sitting at a table looking at Poppy's gym, waiting for any news on her condition. We then see one of the nurses come, and she actually tells him that some of the infected trolls are starting to wake up after going through their procedures. And while they are still weak, they look to be making a full recovery. We even get to see Guy reunite with his son, and also Biggie, who has lost a ton of weight, so I guess we can't really call him Biggie anymore. But for Poppy, she's still in a coma. Although the good news is that all her vitals seem to be doing okay. We then cut to some time later where we see both Viva and Branch sitting by Poppy's bedside, hoping to be the first faces that she sees when she wakes up. As her pain and is kind of able to share in it for a bit. And then in the final chapter, we see Cloud Guy call up the Branch and Viva, screaming that Poppy is. So it's nice to see some characters actually get a true